Good morning, Miramar, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tamara G. Don't forget, you can check us out on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City of Miramar. That's spelled Miramar. We all know it's right here in Miramar, and right here with me this morning, we have author Jenny Thelwell. She's the author of Pressure Point: Adversities Strengthen and Push You to Your Destiny. This is her book right here. She is also very dear to me because she is my line sister in Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the best sorority ever. Ever. And so we want to welcome you to the show. Welcome, Jenny. So glad to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I'm over here trying to think of all the right things to say.
You just be my wonderful Jenny and you're good to go. Now, when you made this book, actually wrote this book and you put it out, I was one of the first people to buy one from you because I wanted to support you. Tell us a little bit about Pressure Point and where it comes from, because you know your whole company, everything is about being a revolutionary diamond. Tell us about that Pressure Point.
Yeah, so pressure is about how are you embracing that pressure, because we all go through it. We all have so many different adversities and struggles, even from childhood. It starts right when we come out of the womb, right? You enter the world and there's so many things to explore. And, you know, depending on what your culture is and what your upbringing is, there's more pressure. And so I wanted to write the book on the different adversities that I've been through as a Latina, as coming from a poor or low socioeconomic household, a single parent household, and just being the oldest. Everyone thinks that being the oldest is the best thing and being the first at everything is the best thing. But let me tell you, it is pressure. Okay. It's a lot on your shoulders, and you have to pave the way. And sometimes when you come from parents who haven't been educated, not because they didn't want to, obviously, but you know, their own life circumstances and their own struggles and adversities, it's kind of hard to want to pave the way and not know how. And so I wanted to it's not so much a pathway or a how-to, but I wanted to show one way that you can, through my book and through my experiences, how you can persevere, even if you have all the odds stacked against you. And
that's so important
to write it,
because so many people feel like they do have the odds stacked against them, that there's no way that they're ever going to get out of their circumstances. And as you mentioned, you know, everybody has adversities and pressure as soon as you're born. Your story, we're almost kind of parallel, really. You know, single parent household. Well, my mother was married to my father, but, you know, lower income, did not have the education, yet some kind of way we decided, and maybe we're that first generation that decided that we were going to break that generational curse. How did you do that? Because like you're saying, you didn't really have anyone to follow or to show you the way. You kind of just did all this yourself. And I believe you'll be Dr. Thelwell pretty soon, so we'll talk about that too. We're going to put that out there in the universe.
Yes, please do it again.
Yeah, Dr. Thelwell.
There you go.
Yeah.
Call it into existence.
Yeah.
But yes, I would love to take all the credit for it, but in reality, I still did have my mom, who, even though she didn't know how to pave the way in certain areas, she definitely gave me a lot of home training, as what, you know, old South folks would say, right? Home training, responsibility, how to use that responsibility wisely, even with the little bit that we had, knowing how to manage the little bit of money that we did have. And so she still instilled a lot of virtual assets and characteristics. So I think that gave me the determination to know that I can go further. How I was gonna get there, I didn't know. You know, Caribbean families, I don't know if you know any, but let me tell you, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer or anything of that caliber, then you're not really doing much, right?
Right.
But
Which
they don't
isn't
ever
true.
tell you how they're gonna how you're gonna pay for those things. They want you to get there, but they don't know how to help you get there.
Right.
And so it was hard to pave the way. It was hard to find how to do those things. However, I think like just putting one foot in front of the next is the same. And I'm still doing it, right? I'm still trying to figure things out, even at 37. So starting the publishing company, not knowing how to run a company, not knowing what I learned throughout the entire journey is that I do have to embrace the pressure. I had to change my perspective on how I looked at pressure, how I looked at struggle, and know that if there's a struggle, then there's a brighter side on the other end. And so now it's like I'm inviting the struggle, I'm inviting the challenge, I'm inviting the adversity so that I can become that better person, because I realize that the story is really not for me. Everything that I'm going through is really not for me, because once I surpass that mountain, once I climb that mountain, what about it?
Right.
There's another
Let's get to the
mountain to
next
pass.
mountain.
So it's about, the story starts with me, but it never ends with me. I hope that it wouldn't end, that I'm able to instill whatever I've learned through my adversities into other people, and that they'll be able to continue to pass the baton. And that's what I realized. I realized that it just wasn't for me, that I had to put it in a book. I had to tell my story, because I'm this little thing in like something that's way bigger than me.
Speaking
So
of passing the baton, you ran track
I
when you were
did.
in college.
Yeah.
So, did you go to school on an athletic scholarship?
I actually went to Alabama State University as a walk-on. I hadn't gotten a scholarship yet, but I wanted to go away from home like most teenagers do, which I was still scared to do because I was almost like the second parent in my household. So I was, I didn't want to leave my mom with all the responsibility of taking care of my siblings, because I knew I played a big part in that. But yeah, she was like, no, you need to go. Well, I'll figure it out. And so I did. And I went straight to the track coach and I said, hey, I'm a pole vaulter. You probably don't know much about me. Let me show you what I can do. And I got a scholarship that way. And
Awesome.
thank
So
God.
there's a lesson right there.
Yeah.
Folks, if you're watching, don't ever give up and don't be afraid to ask. Don't, you just went up to the coach and said, hey, let me show you what I can do.
Yeah.
And you weren't even on his radar before, or her radar before then. So that's amazing. So you went to Alabama State, and then you also are one of our veterans on our line. How did that come about?
I've always wanted to be a Delta. And let me tell you, it was hard. I actually went out for the Delta line at Alabama State University. I was a senior already. So I'm not sure exactly. That might have been one of the reasons why I didn't get on that line. But once I learned what it was to be in a sorority and all of the things and the awesome women I saw and knew, some of them I was really great friends with, all of the community service, I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do it with other women, because again, I wanted the guidance. It's not like I wanted to pave the way out by myself and just figure it out always by myself. I just had a conversation with someone where I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of climbing the stairs every time, right? Why can't I take the elevator just one time? But there's always a lesson in taking the stairs, right? A new lesson, no matter how many times you climb the stairs. And so, at some point you get tired of the struggle. You get tired of having to work extra hard for every little thing. But again, every time I realize that once I climb that stair, the doors, they bust wide open, because there's a lesson in climbing the stairs and not taking the elevator. And yeah, I knew I wanted to be a Delta, and I knew that at some point down in my life, I had to achieve that goal.
And as with
So
everything, and the same here, always wanted to be a Delta since college, and the timing just was never right. And spring of 2019, the timing was right for 52 of us to do that. Yes. And again, I think there's a lesson there for people. Don't ever give up, because it's never too late. and for the folks who are listening on our line, Jenny, what we had from 22 to 62, I think, or 64. So, there's never a time when it's not going to be a time. You can always make a time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
So
always appointed to us at that particular time. When I think about it now, back then, what I wanted from Delta, and what I felt I could give to Delta is so different than what I am giving to them now and what they're giving to me. And so I wouldn't be able to give everything that I could give then. Not saying that I wouldn't have grown to that. I possibly would have, but you just have a different perspective from it now. I saw it in college life and I see it now, and I'm like, wow, I'm so glad that, I was on that line with 51 other women who I feel I was supposed to be with. So it was just amazing.
A time and a season, for sure.
That's right.
If you're just tuning in to Good Morning Miramar, thank you so much for watching. I'm speaking with author Jenny Thelwell. She is the author of Pressure Point: Adversities Strengthen and Push You to Your Destiny. This is the book right here. You are very candid in this book. You talk about a lot of things that most people would not open up about. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Again, I wanted to be very transparent. I wanted to show who I was becoming, who I am still becoming, and why I'm becoming who I'm becoming. And I think that all of those pressures, all of those adversities really propelled me into who I am today, and understanding why we have to go through some of the things that we have to go through. And it really made me deepen my journey, my spiritual journey. Like if you don't have a strong faith base, reading my story can help you get there. It can help you realize that there's more to what you're going through than what we feel at the moment. At the moment, our life could be crumbling down and you just feel like there's nothing and no one that can help you. And, it gets better. Again, going through the storm always sucks. It always seems like it's never going to end, but it does. And that's the good news. There's always tomorrow.
And there is a lesson.
Sometimes,
yeah,
I hate saying that sometimes, because I'm one of those people that don't really leave things for tomorrow, because I always feel like if I could do it today, I'm doing it today.
Right.
I don't care if I gotta sleep at 3:00 in the morning. I could do it today, because I kind of don't feel like there's always tomorrow. But when it comes to learning a skill, or learning to sit in those emotions and feeling them and acknowledging them because they're normal, there's a moment where you just need to sit and really revel in those feelings and those emotions and learn from that, because that's when we learn. We don't really learn and reflect when we're so happy. Usually the time to do that is when we're down and out and we have no other choice but to sit down and reflect, right?
And truth be told, I always, when I am feeling down like that, or I'm thinking that, woe is me and I don't have this and I don't, and trust me, I'm thankful in all things. I know the scripture, but sometimes we get that way because it's human nature. And then literally someone will call me and tell me a story and I'll be like, ooh, never mind. I'll keep my problems. Never mind. I'll just, I'll stick with what I have. Because again, faith-based, that, he will give you no more than you can bear. So we all make it through. It's just how you make it through, how long it's going to take you to make it through, and whether you learn the lesson or not. Because some people don't learn the lesson and they keep repeating it.
That's the cycle, the vicious cycle. And that's another reason why I wrote Pressure Point in my book. I talk a lot about, when I speak so much about breaking generational curses and being the first, and not so excited about being the first, but knowing what that responsibility entails. And now I have, and I have a testimony I'm going to share. I haven't shared it with anybody, so this is news to brand
Wow.
new right here on
Okay.
Good Morning Miramar. So I had a moment, because being the first to go to college, being the first to pave the way, being the oldest, and hoping that my siblings learn from my mistakes, but still move. Because that's my thing. I know that I didn't know all the answers, but I knew I had to move forward and that I had to keep going. So even with my book, you can hold it up one more time because I want to show something. So even with that book, right? This is the same book.
Okay.
This is the same book, but I'm showing this because I'm being transparent in the way that I'm saying what I'm saying. When I first had that book and I put it out there, I couldn't hold on to it anymore, because if I did, it still would have been in my hands and not out and published, because there was always something wrong. I always had to change something. I always had to go back and like, no, I can't write it like this, and I can't do this like this. And, I just had to put it out. However, I wasn't a professional. That was my first book I've ever published. That was the first book I ever put together. And so I looked at the front of it and looked at the cover. I'm like, oh, I look nice. I like that picture. I like the title is there. Everything is there. It's good to go. Boom. Let's get it out. And then once I got more of a professional opinion and I started like really digging into what it was to market a book and all of that, because mind you, I had done some digging, but not too much, or not enough, or I learned as I go. The professional coach who was coaching me through it said, that picture right there is a beautiful picture, but you look like you made it already. You don't look like you had any pressure.
I like this picture.
He was like, you look like you made it. You look like you haven't had any pressure. You look like you embrace what pressure? You look like you perfect. I'm like, come on, that's just a nice picture. He was like, however, if I'm going through something and I'm going through the bookstore and I see this book, you don't really look like someone I could relate to, So he chose this picture and said, see, here you look more candid. You look like the girl next door. I can be like, okay, I can put on a jacket and a t-shirt and I could be like this girl right here.
Okay.
Hey. And so he was like, you got everything at the bottom down there. Here you have some separation. And, so I got his point. So, but the lesson in that was that it doesn't have to be perfect. And yes, I spent more money doing the book cover again, but I put it out there. Mm-hmm. I didn't let it stop me. Not knowing did not stop me from making the move, right? Because the message is the same. Right. The message is what I needed to get out there. Not so much the book cover, but we understand marketing and branding and all of that. So I get it, right? I told him, I said, okay, fine, I get it, right? But even the subtitle, the one that you have, to me, sounds perfect. Mm-hmm. Adversities strengthen you
and push you to your destiny.
And this one is stop feeling bad for yourself and grow through what you go through.
Totally different marketing campaign. I like it.
And it's more catchy and all of that. So I get it. But guess what? I learned, I made the adjustment, and I continue to move forward. And that's one of the things that I tell people all the time is it's not easy, and you're not always going to know all of the answers, but you have to keep moving forward. And then you just make adjustments and keep going.
And also, Jenny, what I like in that story too is that you listened.
Yeah.
You listened. You didn't just say, oh, I know everything, or I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it. You sought out, which I'm sure you probably paid him for his professional opinion, because that's what he does, book reviews or book, covers. And if he's saying, change it, move it around, then there's a lesson in that too, because I think a lot of people don't want to change and they don't want to listen to people. And that you have to do that, because you mentioned when we first started talking, you didn't know everything. You still don't know everything, but you're learning as you go.
Right. And that's very important. You have to know how to follow to be a leader.
I like that, Jenny.
Be a leader. Yes, because you're not the principal of the school can't run every department. He's not a specialist in every single subject area. So he has to lean on other people that know, but he is still the captain of the ship, right?
Right.
And so it goes the same way. He needs to learn how to follow those people who are the math experts and the English writing experts and all of that, because he's not an expert in those areas. So I think it just makes sense. You have to know how to follow in order to lead.
And you are, even though you're now a published author, and just a couple of weeks ago, we did the Delta Authors on Tour. I hosted it, and you were one of the premier authors. I think it was 19 of them from the southern around the country, though, but it was for the southern region. We had 500 people on a Zoom, and then we went out into breakout rooms. When you were discussing your book and the things that you have gone through in your book, what was some of the feedback that you got? Did more people have more in common with you, or did they not have as much in common?
A lot of the feedback was, "Oh, you're so brave. I've been through some of these things, but I would never tell anybody. I would never, you're so brave. How were you able to tell this story?" Again, and to me, I wanted to be transparent. My purpose is bigger, and I think we all have a bigger purpose, but sometimes you have to do the inside work. You have to get counseling, you have to get therapy. I'm confident in my skin now, because I'm not saying that I was always that confident, but I understand now why I went through those things, why I have to say something, why I have to be transparent, because there's so many people that do relate to being molested, that do relate to domestic violence, that do relate to being the oldest and not knowing, and they do relate to immigration and being, a child of immigration parents who have no idea what they're doing in America, except that they have this dream and they have to try to make it, but they fell short. And now all the pressure is on the kids to this is why we came here. I need you to do X, Y, and Z, right? And so all of that is pressure. And if we don't tell our story, it's not just me, we all have a story. If we don't tell our story and our experiences, how do we grow? How do we help our kids? How do we help our family? How do we move forward? And, I don't want to be fake in doing so. I want to say, listen, I went through this. This was my way. There's a million ways to skin a cat. That's how the saying goes. But this is what worked for me. You can try it, but by all means, just try something. Do not stay stagnant. Do not live in that space all your life. Grow from it, feel it, understand it, and then share the word. Share the word. Somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to move forward. And I like to say this, I got this from church from my pastor a long time ago, and it's always stuck with me. There's certain people attached to your voice. There's certain people attached to your life that they won't move until you move, because they're looking at you. They're waiting for you to make those moves. And we all have people attached. I have a personal thing that I had to get over myself with my brother. My brother is the only boy. He's the middle child. And so I have to help him a whole lot.
Don't you say anything about middle children.
Listen, I don't know about you middle kids that much. And I love my brother to death, right? But I always come back and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Let me tell you, let me do this, And it's like, he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But he won't really move on that. Yeah. Now, I have another friend who talks to him regularly. And he's like, oh, you know what such and such said? They said X, Y, and Z. I'm like,
didn't I just say that last?
I've been saying that for about 5 years, but he listens to that voice differently. And so I had to think about what my pastor said that time. Like, maybe my brother is not attached to my voice.
Wow.
And so when someone else says it hits him differently than when he gets it from me. So I said, okay, I'm just going to do my part. I'm going to continue to talk. But if he doesn't move, then he doesn't move. Whenever he hears it from that person, whoever is attached to him, I'll be there to support him.
That's amazing. That's a great way of looking at that. I guess you're right. Sometimes we don't. The other part of that too is sometimes you don't know who is watching you. and you know, they are looking up to you and wanting to emulate you. Everybody is not a hater, as people
Right.
say. It's just that they are looking for a way out or looking for a way to do something, and they saw how Jenny did it, or they saw how Tamara did it, and therefore, you know, well, maybe I can do it too. And that's all we're here
Mhm.
for, is to help
Right.
other people move through life and
Yeah.
do good for people. I truly believe that, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
So now, where can people find Pressure Point?
Yes. So Pressure Point is on my website, www.revolutionary-diamond.com.
Mhm.
And it's also on Amazon.
Okay, awesome. So Pressure Point. Now tell us the new tagline, because listen, like I said, I bought the book when
We'll
it
hold it
first
both
came
up.
out. Yeah, let's hold them both up. I
Awesome.
like both pictures,
Mhm.
but yes, mine has a different tagline. Let's do the new one now.
Okay. The new one is stop feeling bad for yourself. Grow through what you go through.
Awesome. Before we leave, I mentioned about the doctorate you're studying. Why is education so important to you as a firstborn, as a daughter of immigrants, as someone who had to pave the way for the rest of your siblings? And how many siblings do you have?
I have two other siblings.
Two other siblings. Okay. So, you know, it was three of you guys. Why is education so important for you?
Yes, I think that the more we're educated, the more we know where to go. I always say this, if I had known that I had the tenacity that I'm equipped for, which thank God, I feel like God has equipped me with all of this stuff, because if I go back and look at my family, honey, where did it come from?
Right. Right.
Right?
It had to come from above. I know.
Yes, I'm telling you. And if I had known, I probably would have went into a different profession. But I always say I would have been like a lawyer for immigration or something, because I just love that field. But being an educator allows me to still work in that purpose and that capacity somewhat, especially being in South Florida, where there are a lot of immigrants and you know, just a lot of people trying to make it. And I'm like, hey, I don't think that I've made it, but I've made it past this point. Let me help you. Right. But I think it's very important for me. My father had a third grade education. And he was from the capital of Dominican Republic, but very poor. He had over 15 siblings or something. You know, my grandfather was a busy man.
Yes.
And they struggled. I mean, he didn't have anything. He had to work. And that's why he ended up not going to school. And so he would fish. He was a fisherman, and he would go around and sell the fish that he would catch and bring back money home. My mom, she dropped out in the 9th grade. So she never really even started high school, to be honest. And so it was just very important for me. They made it very important for me to always get good grades, and they pushed me to get good grades and always go to school, even though they couldn't help me with the homework, right? So I still had to figure that out. But it's
Right.
okay. They instilled that in me. And so I feel like I'm trying to make it harder for my daughter, because because I always say you have to get more than me. And so now I'm gonna get the most that I can get. So now she have no choice but to get the most that she can get. Right. And so it's just very important for me to always finish what I start as well. So for me, I started with education. I wanted to get a bachelor's, and then I just wanted to continue to learn. And I'm a lifelong learner. I love learning. I love teaching. And so I want to always be at the top of my game. And so I decided to go for my doctoral degree, and hopefully be ready to finish here in May. It's been a long journey. But God has blessed me with other projects in the midst of completing that degree. So I can't complain.
Right.
Everything has been timed perfectly in his timing and not mine,
Right.
because we want to always finish on our time. But let me tell you, the book came out right on time. Delta came right on time.
Mhm.
And this degree will come right on time.
And what a great way to end it. I can't wait to have you back when you're Dr. Jenny Thelwell. The book is called Pressure Point. Now, again, I have one of the first copies because I bought it when it first came out. But of course, Jenny has the newer copy and the newer tagline. And once again, where can people find it?
Yes, you can find it at www.revolutionary-diamond.com.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much, Tamara, for having me. Every time you say stuff about me, I'm always so flattered. I'm like, look at my life system. But
All
not
of my
only that,
love.
like I really feel all of the love and all of the support. Again, you got one of the first copies, so you were always there quickly with no hesitation. Just always have my back, and I really, really appreciate you, and I love you dearly.
All of my love, my sister. All of my love, and much continued success.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much for watching Good Morning Miramar. I'm your host, Tamara G. And until next time, see you.